What makes a dream come true?
4, 3, 2, 1, go.
Good morning, New York. Clear skies over Manhattan today. Downtown girls, prepare for arrival.
Hello, Louis Vuitton. Hello, Nicolas.
The boys wanna be her, the girls wanna be her, the boys wanna be her, the girls wanna be her, the boys wanna be her, the girls wanna be her, the boys wanna be her.
When it comes to dreams, New York certainly thinks it knows. People have been coming here for generations, looking for the same thing, a chance. But the city doesn't hand out success, it hands out possibilities. Oh, by the way, I'm Tuba Avalon, your contemporary social anthropologist and personal fashion translator. And thankfully, I'm not alone, because there's never just a single way to experience the city.
Hello? Where are you? Okay, great. See you soon.
You know my friend Liana, right? To understand this collection, you need to understand the city. And who could be better for this than a true New Yorker? From a distance, you would say New York looks like one city. But New Yorkers would highly disagree with that. Here it is the neighborhood that matters, and only a few ones have shaped popular culture quite like downtown Manhattan. And somewhere among them, a local icon.
Oh, wait, we're rolling now?
Yeah, we're rolling, baby. Let's roll on this. Nice to see
It's
you.
our favorite spot, our favorite watering hole in New York City. We come here all the time.
I used to come here.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. Well, I used to live around the corner. I used to live on 10th between 2nd and 3rd.
Oh, okay. See.
My first apartment, I moved to New York the day after I graduated in 1993. The very next day, I had it all lined up already. I'd brought my parents there, and they'd met the roommates, the future roommates. So I lived with 5 other kids in Brooklyn, very into like New York punk bands, and New York was always crackling. It was always there, like just beyond my reach. You know, I grew up in a town where I knew all the kids from kindergarten to senior year, so I was just like itching for new experiences, meeting new people, you know, doing new things. And so I had to drop myself in the center of it all, New York City.
A few blocks away, Ethan also arrived in downtown Manhattan, chasing dreams. But how much time needs to pass until you become a true New Yorker?
A lot of my friends, the pictures I have of them, have been shot during their first week in New York. So it's like very much about arrival to the city.
Because every New Yorker arrives twice in the city, once dreaming about it and once in reality.
New York for me was where I had to go to chase after what I was dreaming of, and I think also to find my people.
You describe the sensation of touching down here?
Oh my God, it was incredible. I mean, I grew up surrounded by cornfields, and I loved fashion and dressed ridiculous, but I came here and all of a sudden I wasn't the weird one. I was just another person on the street. What I was seeing on the screen was all of a sudden in front of me, and yeah, everyone else was excited what I was excited about.
For decades, downtown Manhattan attracted people with ideas and very little interest in staying in their lane. Art became pop art, culture, pop culture. Perhaps that's why Nicolas Ghesquière chose Keith Haring for this collection.
His images are so like iconic. They still, I think, immediately transport someone to like kind of a certain time or place or a certain feeling and emotion.
What made Haring matter was access. His images traveled quickly, soon spreading from New York to the rest of the world. New York has this habit of bringing people back. 25 years after his first show in the city, Nicolas Ghesquière returns to Manhattan. It's a city that rarely stands still for very long. But somewhere between downtown and uptown, we find ourselves somewhere particularly familiar, the Louis Vuitton fittings.
It's good to see you. Good to see you too. Yeah. You all right? Est-ce qu'on est obligé de mettre... c'est bien renforcé, est-ce qu'on est obligé de mettre aussi fort jusqu'au bout?
Un peu... Oui.
Ça va si on peut... Tu vois?
On peut décaler un peu.
Là, tu l'as pas. D'accord. Très bien. Ouais, oui, c'est bon. On se voit. C'est ça.
Mais voilà, ça, on a besoin de le maintenir.
Moi j'aime bien. Je trouve qu'elle peut, avec son cou, elle peut en avoir un plus épais.
And let me please introduce you to someone who just recently started to call herself a New Yorker.
I took, the biggest risk of my life, and I think it kind of worked out, is how I think so. I think.
What do you think is like a typical way of dressing for a New Yorker, or what's important for New Yorkers?
That's why I love New York. I don't think there is an answer for that. Moving here, not that it was the same, but it's kind of the similar stuff of moving to a bigger city. And then I was like, oh, I really got to step it up, but in a genuine way, where I think New Yorkers can sniff bullshit really quickly. So I think you got to dress in this authentic way.
People come here from all over the world, searching for a version of themselves that maybe only New York can unlock.
Hello, Louis Vuitton. Hello, Nicola.
We are now underground because we are preparing for the show.
That's right.
Where are you from?
China.
How long have you been in New York this week?
I got here yesterday.
You did a great job.
Thank you.
The lip is incredible. Wait, what were you doing before modeling?
I was working on a farm in Australia. It's good, very different to the big city.
Describe New York City.
Cool. Right now, hot.
Take a sabbatical from your radical, fanatical battle. Sit on my saddle and battle.
There we go. Am I in focus? Okay.
I'm just talking to you.
You're gonna be walking down the runway. How do you get into that mode?
You gotta stay ready so you don't have to get ready. Lock in. Oh, I just disassociate. Hey, show me your best model pose.
I like to seize it and slap it like you do. I like to
Okay.
tap it like you do. So
Can you show me how to walk?
back it up, back it up.
Okay, should I try? Should I do it?
Back it up, back it up.
Strong. Okay, strong.
You know what I'm talking about, right? Well, it could only be one thing,
We're gonna sign off.
Mine's fake, inanimate, but feels great to stimulate your prostate. Relax, it's fat. Let me pack your crack and make it all flat up in your second. So back it up, baby. Back it up, back it up. Back it up, baby. Back it up, back it up.
If downtown is where creative ideas begin, uptown is where they acquire a place in history. Few places illustrate that better than the Frick collection. And it's not just a beautiful backdrop, it actually is one of the main characters of the story. The museum belongs to a moment when New York was establishing itself as a cultural capital. You see it everywhere, the oak paneling, the gilded details, the centuries of craftsmanship. But I'm not going to lie, I'm here for the outfits. And somewhere between the paintings, the music, and the energy of anticipation, the museum gains a new purpose. It stops preserving culture for a moment and starts becoming part of it. Which means the models now have to navigate the Frick with the precision of a New Yorker during rush hour. Across the West Gallery, Oval Gallery, East Gallery, around the Garden Court and back upstairs, all while maintaining exactly 10 seconds between each other.
Almost every single show I photograph Nicola where the show is. I think the great thing about photographing friends is so many of them are also collaborators behind the camera. So there's this understanding of how I make pictures.
Even the chaos of New York needs a schedule sometimes. And the show's about to start, but I need to introduce you to one more person. And don't act like you weren't waiting for him since the very beginning of the movie.
Feel like a city where you can, truly contribute to your own dreams and your ambitions. And I feel like being in New York, it did help me build that kind of confidence.
How does it make you feel like to be here? How does New York have an impact on you, on how you feel?
Very nostalgic. With my members, it's just like, we'd always promote our music in New York. I love it how New York has its own way of, seeing the people. They dress so luxurious, yet they have a mix of other concepts. It's very playful in a sense.
What are you expecting of today's show? Did you see anything more than the teaser?
I wanted to ask Nicola, but obviously it's let's wait, I feel like he picked the Frick collection deliberately to mix with New York, just to have that kind of mix and match vibe, but also just to be...
I will give you one more spoiler this time. Okay. It's just big contrasts.
Go.
The boys wanna be her, the girls wanna be her, the boys wanna be her. I wanna be her. Yes, I do.
The first look tells you almost everything you need to know about this collection. The detail that matters is the jumpsuit tied around the waist. The practical uniform painters wore while working. Julia is carrying an LV trunk that Keith Haring once used to sketch on with a black marker. History catches up on each other. Haring and Ghesquière meet here again today. Look 14 mixes the traditional motorcycle jacket and turns it into a softened cropped leather and a satin silhouette that are almost unrecognizably sewn together. The double boxing shorts remind of Haring's rising around the 80s, inspired by athleisure and the idea of movement. One of the strongest accessories of the show are the shoes. Sneakers resembling biker boots in a neo-futuristic silver shade covered in ruffles. Look 27 takes one of Keith Haring's emblematic works and places it onto a silhouette inspired by something as surprisingly ordinary as packaging, as if the garments could be folded flat and packed away. You might almost say a to-go package. And that idea feels particularly relevant in pop art context, where everyday objects were often transformed into cultural symbols. And by choosing Haring's work, Nicolas Ghesquière leaves the conversation open, presenting the artist not as a historical figure, but as an idea that still continues to evolve.
Le contraste entre le décor et quelque chose de presque british, c'est presque on a envie d'être silencieux et puis tout d'un coup arrivent ces fringues super pop, super modernes et j'aime toujours. Nicolas, j'arrive pas à comprendre comment il mélange les choses. C'est toujours hyper sexy.
The color is what really struck me. So I think there was at least 10 things. I was like, okay, I want to wear that really bad.
The hats and the jackets. I feel like you see kids walking down New York City streets and, they're showing their best and they're also have their armor on. I felt like I could feel that kind of armor coming through what he was doing with the designs.
And it was eccentric and wild and bold and young. It had this youthfulness and this rebellious spirit to it. It was just amazing.
The show was this weird time portal back to all of the things we loved in the New York in the 80s. So it's this too weird, I don't know where I am right now.
Look 56 feels almost like a collusion between two wardrobes. The upper half borrows from the grandeur of the early 20th century evening dress, with layers of ruffles, embroidery and volume, concentrated around the shoulders like a painted portrait coming to life. Then abruptly the direction changes. Instead of a ballroom skirt, we get transparent cargo trousers folded over like overalls, with multiple pockets showing the inside can work just as well as the outside. It's a combination that shouldn't work, yet somehow it does, and partly because New York has always been a city where elegance and utility, uptown and downtown, exist in constant conversation. Overcharged with energy, it feels like the city wanted to have the final word and a storm broke out during the finale. Because New York doesn't really do quiet, the city runs on a particular kind of impatience. People walk fast, talk fast, decide fast, even the ideas come fast. Some people come here out of love for the city, chasing a dream. Some come looking for their crowd. Some catering bigger-than-life ambitions. Nicolas came here on a creative journey, out of belief that the creation in the now serves the culture of tomorrow. And somehow they all cross paths here. I guess that's why New York continues to fascinate people. It clearly doesn't have all the answers, but it keeps making room for new questions. And for anyone ambitious enough to chase them, there's still a chance to dream.